Welcome to Drop Pod, episode 21. Thank you everybody for tuning in. There's a lot to go over this episode. Just me this week. Did not pay Austin enough to be on this episode, and I will need to extend his contract to Drop Pod Studios Incorporated if I want him to be on any more episodes of Drop Pod, trademark registered. You know what's interesting? I held on to the name Drop Pod since I started, Drop Pod as far back as 2019 in the pilot. And I went on the assumption that I was the only individual that actually had the name Drop Pod in association with a podcast. There was a podcast by the name of Pod Drop. I don't even know what they discuss. And I had more or less have been blissfully unaware that somebody else had used the name Drop Pod for their podcast last year. But unlike the Drop Pod that you know and love, that Drop Pod is doing so much better. I think all it is Halo talk, which is fair. It is this channel is Halo themed, and the podcast name is Halo themed to correlate between the name and brand of Hell Jumpers, Gel Humpers, if you're one of those. So I don't know. What I do know is that this is the same Drop Pod. Same bat place, same bat channel. Roughly same bat time, at least within a day. Luckily for you guys, this one will actually release on time. 10 o'clock a.m. PST. At the time of this episode releasing, Gamescom would have come and went. I hope everybody got what they wanted out of Gamescom. I thought it was pretty good. It was a pretty good showcase. It usually sucks when people are like super jaded about one of these events. But it's like you kind of understand where it's coming from. It's like, oh man, that huge gaming event. I'm going to see some games that I'll probably be interested in. And I'll actually be hyped for the coming months, coming year. Which is what we wanted out of an event like this, especially since there's no more, E3. And I'm glad that Jeff Keighley's he's single-handedly keeping hype trains going. A lot of good stuff. So we discussed last week, still interested in Mafia 4. That's probably going to be my big game for next year. This year still have plenty to look forward to, especially with Diablo 4. The expansion. Got Space Marine 2. Will not shut up about this game. I'm sorry. Gotta bring it up. Roughly comes out in 2 weeks' time if you pre-ordered, that is. Which I'm pretty sure a lot of the people within my own circle have done. We'll get into releases later on in the show, but Gamescom itself wasn't bad. There's a game on there that really intrigued me by the name of Reanimal. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to whatever's going to happen with Starship Troopers. They had a booth at Gamescom, and I wasn't able to see it. Little Nightmares 3. Really excited for that game. Crimson Desert looks pretty interesting. I've never played Black Desert, but it's made by the folks that did Black Desert. I did install Black Desert the other night because they had sent me an email for some very random codes. The email read something along the lines of, here's 3 codes, take one for yourself and pass 2 to your friends. I have no idea why I have these codes. They're not for anything that I did. I didn't sign up for anything. I didn't I didn't sign up for any creator programs. These are just codes that they handed out, and they were like, "Have fun." And it's not entirely strange that I get codes for things as a content creator, but I didn't even show my interest in Black Desert. Like I got codes for Power Wash Simulator, a game that I still have yet to stream, even though I was meant to do so for a promoted video. My Friendly Neighborhood, which is a Muppets, Resident Evil, had a free code for Ready or Not. Which I played tactical first-person shooters. So it's not out of the realm that I get just random codes, and whatever I do with the codes is what I do. I also got a code to System Shock that one time played a good chunk of that, but that was a reviewer copy, and I didn't even release a review on it. They didn't. There was nothing binding me to do so. I probably shouldn't be discussing this on a podcast, but there wasn't anything binding me to do anything of the sort. But it was just strange. So I downloaded Black Desert the other night. I'm trying it out. Like, the game looks really interesting. If I was into MMOs, like if I was super into MMOs, I'd probably put a little bit more time into Black Desert, but I'm just not. I don't really have that sort of time anymore to like invest in an MMO unless it's like something I was already super entrenched with, like, WoW, Path of Exile, Warframe, Diablo. Like it has to be one of those. Black Desert, it's really interesting in terms of the combat. It's like very active, very dynamic. It's like it plays really differently to any other Western-based MMO or ARPG even. So I'm going to keep an eye on Crimson Desert because it just looks interesting. It looks like it picks up a lot of the stuff that it did for Black Desert. I don't know if this is going to be an MMO, but the combat looked really neat. That's good enough for me. I'm going to butcher this next title. Inzoi, I as in India. It's a really big life simulator. So you think Sims or Sim City, but bigger. And that's basically what that game is. Those sort of games aren't for me, but it looked really neat. So I think if you like The Sims, you'll definitely get some mileage out of that. There was Arena Breakout Infinite. I saw snippets of this game last year and I was like, oh, okay, that's just another extraction shooter. Cool. It's not really my forte. I can't really get into extraction shooters. One, because I mainly play those games solo, and that's no fun. I feel like you need like a crew and like everybody's kind of learning off of each other to like really get involved with the game like that. So I kind of didn't pick up Tarkov. It's like everybody has like the meta that they know, and me, I'm just kind of like stumbling forward. Like I didn't even know anything about like the shop. You know what I mean? Like everybody can like sell their stuff. I'm just sitting here like, how do I get a new gun? What's the loot spots? Why does his gun do more damage than my gun, even though we're using the same gun? And that was like my first like few outings of this game. And then it's just like, oh, okay, well, I don't have any more guns. All right, I'm going to stop playing this now and take a break and then come back to it because I know a little bit more about the game at this point. And then leave the game because it's like, all right, well, nobody's really playing this. And then come back because, oh, there's a new wipe. So now everybody's on the same footing. It's like still, okay, well, I don't really have anybody that I could be playing this with. So it's just kind of me going in there, get a few kills or whatever, come out, and then I drop it. So me and extraction shooters don't really hang. There's Frag Punk, which is a arena shooter in the same vein of Valorant or Counter-Strike. I think it's going to be pretty good. I just hope that it does well. This game will be a free-to-play. I bring that up because that market is a little saturated, and plus you got like the two big heavy hitters that you're trying to compete against, and both of those are free between Valorant and CS2. Then there was Shadows of the Damned, which is getting a remaster. I'm actually looking forward to that. I thought that was pretty neat. The fact that it was only at a booth, like it didn't have its own like showcase. It was just at a booth, and it looked really neat. But that was basically everything. Definitely looking forward to Little Nightmares 3. Can't wait until that comes out. So I just like that. I like the idea of like just a nice little adventure horror game, puzzle, something or other. Like we had Limbo, and Limbo was like really good. If you've never played Limbo yet, you've heard of Limbo. I know you've heard of Limbo. If you've never played Limbo, go play it. Like Limbo is so good. That was basically it. Gamescom just came and went, and we'll see what happens with these titles. See what happens with Starship Troopers. I'm unsure of what that even is going to be. I don't know if it was like an expansion or just some like big update a la Helldivers 2. But keep an eye on it. Maybe something happens. I didn't buy it. So I don't really have like a dog in the fight with that game. It played well enough. It's just I didn't get it. Didn't have a need for it. It's like I'm not the biggest Starship Troopers fan, but then Helldivers 2, like that was like a different thing entirely, because that's like a galactic war. There's so many things going on until you run out of things to do. You are now listening to the Weather Channel. Does that work as a cutaway, you think? I'm posing this to you, dear listeners, not to anybody else. Do you guys think that works as a cutaway? You are now listening to Drop Pod. I should have just did that. The fact that this is going to stay in, not only that, I'm also going to use this sound clip any other time I need to do a cutaway. Isn't that crazy? Boy, oh boy. I'm sorry, I've been discussing this game like mad. The past 3 weeks, you guys would have thought I was its biggest fan. Concord had released this week, and I've been keeping tabs on this game. The reason being is because there's ex-Bungie devs in this game. And I'm really curious of what all of the devs are doing, especially those that left the company or, better yet, had gotten let go, especially as of recent developments. So it's there's a lot in it for me for a game like this, and it's just really sad that it didn't do as well as it should have. I go on the Reddit, and people are obviously really stoked about it, but you'll get those posts. There was a post that I saw like hour one of it releasing. It's like, oh, this game is doing good right now. And then a guy like underneath, there's like 600 people playing this game at its peak. We're no longer doing those numbers. As of this recording, its current 24-hour peak is 396. There were 250 players playing an hour ago. This is on Steam. And I know people really dislike, because it happens all the time in Destiny. People really dislike when you use PC numbers to aggregate data, but it's like if this doesn't tell you what you need to know, then come on. I was watching a guy stream the game the other night on release day, and this is release day for everybody, not just early access release day or whatever we're doing now. The guy's sitting there for 4 minutes for a quick play queue. That's not very good for your game that just released. So people are thinking that the Steam charts must be wrong, but then I'm watching streams where the queue times don't seem to add up to it doing well. I know that there were problems for people trying to access the game on Steam, but it's been 4 days now. Like, the game should be in a pretty good, decent enough state. So at this point, I think the pivot into free-to-play is going to be inevitable, and they're probably just going to give some like veteran gift basket to people that bought the game on launch and played or whatever. We'll see how it does. We'll see where it goes. But that's just a really sad tale of the tape. A project that had millions invested into it. The company's first game. And this is a first party title, which we've been waiting for this console generation to like have more. Like this console generation has been such a waste in terms of exclusives, just games on the platform. A lot of it has been remasters. Nothing too groundbreaking. The current data we have suggests that, oh well, remasters, they're just safe. So we can put out a remaster here and there. It's just really crazy. And we finally get a first person. No, it's not entirely incorrect. We finally get a first party game. And that sank pretty fast. And I'm not one of those sticklers that calls like, oh, this game is dead, even though it clearly has people playing it. And, PlayStation has their own internal stats that for some reason they won't share. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe there's a lot of people playing on PlayStation, and for all we know, that's it's doing rather well on PlayStation. But I just hope that this isn't screaming to Sony that PC players don't like video games anymore. We do. It's just the games that we can play currently are free, and nothing about Concord screams ingenuity or willingness to shake up the arena space. So that's Concord, and basically for PC that's DOA, but a game that's even more DOA. DOA means dead on arrival for those uninitiated. There was a second game that had released this week called Dustborn. And Dustborn, we were keeping tabs on it at last year's Game Awards. This is a game, kind of pseudo rhythm, kind of pseudo action adventure. To me, I call this weapons grade cringe. This is a game that's had tax dollars going to it for its development. So people have been calling it the first government-funded video game. And, well, it ain't doing too well. It has an all-time peak on Steam of 76 players. As of this recording, there are 36 players playing currently. And it launched this weekend. Everything is unlikable about this game. I mean, they write the character that, I guess in the writers and the developers' minds, like this character is supposed to be the person that you dislike, and you rather like this character because they're more relatable than the characters you play as. And that it's so awkward. Like the game is just pure cringe, and I can't. Here's the thing. This game really didn't have much marketing behind it. So you already had that kind of working against you. But then on top of that, the audience in which you presented this to were not gamers. This was presented to anybody but people that play video games. In terms of who this game would be for, like I'm kind of the poster boy for a game like this, and even I think that this is genuine cringe. I think like minute 2 of like gameplay from this game, like I was already checked out. I was watching a few streams and I was like, yeah, no, I just, no, I can't do it. I don't know who could and mean it. And no offense to the developers, because as I said last week, like I don't want to see any game fail. Not even something like this that is government funded. They set out to make the game that they wanted to make. I just think that the audience that you targeted, they're not there. is the equivalent of you throwing, you're passing the ball to one of your teammates. You're lining up to pass it, and your teammates aren't even there. Like nobody's there. In fact, not even the enemy team. Nobody's there. You threw that off in the ether, just thinking, that's gonna do work. So this week has been a little weird on releases because you have two games that released rather on death's door. But it's not all bad news. It's not all grim. Before we get to that, I just kind of want to read to you guys a few user reviews because I to me this game is just cringe. Like I can't see myself playing something like this and then having to explain like when am I playing? Like I don't even want to do that. So I kind of wanted to see like, okay, well that's my view, but why are we collectively not liking this game? Because right now it is sitting at a overwhelming dislike on Metacritic, and it has a pretty bad critic review of 67 at the time of this recording, which would be mixed. Games Radar gave this a 70. Dustborn is a unique visual novel-style adventure that brings combat and even a rhythm game to a sometimes intense choice-driven dystopian world where your decisions matter, but it often gets in its own way, mechanically and otherwise. Okay. GameSpot gave it a 50. Over the course of the game, and particularly in its final few chapters, a story already soaked in metaphors, some better than others, positively drowns in them. It eventually goes so far off the rails that its thoughtfully early chapters, well written by entirely different human beings, I'd be more forgiving of this narratively chaotic final act if I were attached to the characters. I liked Lost Season 6 after all. In Lost's case, the events could be silly, but at least I'd have my people. In Dustborn, however, I never really had them to begin with. So I was left with nothing to latch onto. Dustborn's moral compass points to true north, but before long both its story and gameplay go south. Game Rant gave this game a 40. Dustborn's rhythm minigame is just another way the game demonstrates how underdeveloped it all is. Its terribly paced narrative, it's married to an elementary view of authoritarianism and starts in I said irradiating there. It's supposed to be irritating. Hope this helps everybody. Starts an irritating crew that never stops talking. Oh, it's one of those. Combat is woefully simplistic and lacks the necessary smooth controls. None of its systems fit together coherently either because they're all underbaked in one way or another, and, in some cases, plagued by glitches. It's hard for Dustborn to fight the power when it's too busy fighting with itself at every turn. I never got hands-on with this game. I was watching a few streams, and I just don't think the dialogue was very good. And I don't think that in any rate, I don't think this was going to reach its intended audience. It's not even reaching the audience that you would think would be interested, or rather the audience that would interact with this at all. But it's not all bad news. Black Myth Wukong had released with very favorable ratings, and a game that I'm going to check out this week called Tactical Breach Wizards also released with very favorable reviews. Looked really interesting. It's like a mix of XCOM, Door Kickers, and Shadowrun. And it all works pretty well. I think this game is just going to be really big. Hopefully, I have not interacted with this game just yet. I will this week, but I hope that there's going to be like user-created maps. I hope there's going to be a lot of them because I think that will give this game a lot of life. Like the room clearing tactics, all of that looks so neat. So, it's not all bad news. And still plenty of things to be excited about. This week, during the week that Drop Pod releases this episode, you're going to have World of Warcraft, The War Within on the 26th. You're going to have Akimbot action-adventure platformer that will release on August 29th. That looks like it's going to be good. You got the console release of Vampire Survivors on the 29th. That's going to be interesting because I don't think there has been like one of those shoot 'em up sort of survivor games on console yet. At least I don't think so. Star Wars Outlaws releases fully on August 30th. We can only hope that from what I've been seeing from the review copies, it that's going to be working uphill. The week after, you have the casting of Frank Stone, which is a game based off of Dead by Daylight. We have Age of Mythology Retold. This game should be pretty good. If you ever played Age of Mythology, it looked really fun. We have Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. If you had pre-purchased the game, you would have gotten access on the 5th of September. Otherwise, you will have to wait on the 9th. But even then, on the 9th, some interesting stuff. Aside from Space Marine 2, you got The Elder Scrolls Castles, which is a mobile simulation game set in the Elder Scrolls universe. I'm kind of curious what that's going to be like. I don't play many like mobile games. I have games on mobile, but that's like Diablo 1, not to be confused with Diablo Immortal, just straight up Diablo 1. It's Endless Zone Zero, Dead Space. I have so many games on my phone, it's kind of unrealistic. I got Hearthstone on there. It's a little unrealistic how many games I have on my phone. Anyway, aside from that, you got Satisfactory, which is finally leaving early access on the 10th. You have the Lollipop Chainsaw Remaster on the 12th. And personally, that's about it. There's a lot more stuff. You got Crossy Road Castle, which it's Crossy Road. Is Crossy Road in it? It's like one of the very first like games that did like big numbers on Android and iOS way back when, but it's getting a console release on the 11th. That's about it. Drop Pod. That one didn't sound very good. And this is why I need to use like sound bites, so it's like consistent every time. Drop Pod. Cut. Yeah, I don't think your heart is in it. Is what a director would have told me right there, and I would have went, excuse me? This is my program. I would appreciate if you come off it, actually. To which the director would then say, "You're being a little unprofessional right now, aren't you?" To which I would then reply, "I didn't ask. I'm literally looking all around this room and I can't find a single person who asked." And I'm staring daggers at the director at this point, and the doctor. How long is this bit gonna go on for? You know what's sad is I'm gonna use this as a soundbite later. Like this is going to be in a future episode, and you guys are gonna be like, "God, this one really runs on, don't it?" The moral of the story is, this is Drop Pod. Wanted to briefly mention I was going to release Drop Pod episode 20B. I decided against that because this episode was just going to be me anyway. And I used the bonus episodes to kind of talk more on the channel. And I really appreciate all of the loving, kind messages that you guys give me for the Doom videos that I've been doing lately. And it's neat because some of you guys hit me up in my DMs. It's like, "Oh, I just had no idea that even happened to you. Oh my God. Oh, I'm glad you're okay now." It's a bunch of schlocky stuff, but I appreciate that sort of stuff. A lot of people were like, for some reason, like really worried. Everything ended amiably with me and my ex. No reason to worry too hard. To say that it didn't break me down though, because I mean, it's, you're single now. It's like, yeah, no, it got to me. Got to me not as bad as my ex of almost a decade, but she certainly was up there. And I put out that video, one, because I was recording like so late in the night, and I just kind of wanted to talk about like more life stuff. I feel like I don't really get to do that. And the people that watch me, I kind of want you guys to like know a little bit more about me, why I am the way I am generally. Also wanted to offer advice, which is what I think I could be doing on the channel. It's just I don't. At the end of the day, I feel like with content creation, it's like really anything that's creative in and of itself. I feel like you will always be your own worst enemy, and that's just in general. That's just straight up. With whatever you decide to do in life, you're always going to be your worst dissenter in terms of pulling the trigger on anything you decide to do in life. Being a little cringe here, it's not really going to hurt you in the grand scheme of things. Shoot your shot. Go talk to that girl. Maybe, you don't know. Maybe she's really into it. Or that fella. Or anyone in between. I don't judge. It's a judgment-free zone. For now. For now, it's a judgment-free zone. Until you guys give me a reason to judge, in which case I will be judge, jury, executioner. But no, I really appreciate it. I think that's cool that I can put something out and people actually engage with it. It's not just all, meme related. Just what I really aim to avoid with the Doom videos. And even if you don't really like the messages behind them, at least there's Doom, which was kind of like what I was going for with this series. I've been brainstorming more topics that I would want to cover. And it's cool because Doom is just like a relaxing game for me. I'm not really worried about anything. It's just, do I remember where the secret is? Try not to die to the guy. The next topic that I have will be a lot better in terms of its recording quality. I assure you. Because the episode on my ex, like that was recorded late night. I was already half past dead. So the rest of the series should be a little bit better, especially since you guys told me that you've actually really appreciated having listened to that story. That's good. That's literally cool. It's like a content creator. It's like when people tell you, like, hey guys, if you want me to do more of this stuff, please leave a comment. It's like, no, the content creators really mean that. That's not just like, drive up my numbers. No, it's like, if you guys want me to do more videos like this, I will do more videos, but I kind of need the discussion behind it. Because how am I to know if this is really good or not? And that series so far is some of the better stuff that I've done on the channel, aside from the Warhammer stuff, which we'll get back to in the coming weeks. When I was coming up with topics that I kind of wanted to talk about, there was one that I didn't think would be appropriate to kind of talk about. So I'm going to talk about it here. There were a few comments that I was getting that you guys wanted to know about one of my exes. And I'll talk about that one later on, because I had brought it up like, I was with her for almost a decade. It's like, oh, well, that one was probably more well-to-do than the pretty lady you met off at Tinder. Correct. So we'll get to that one eventually. Just not immediately. I don't think it would be too wise to do. Let me talk about my ex, and then let me talk about the other ex, back to back. So I got to space those out. I had some ideas. So like my first job, thought people would really appreciate a story like that. My first job where I was being paid above the board. There was a phone call that I'd gotten from my sister, who's like a very important individual in my life. And she was talking about she's in her 20s now, and me and her have been estranged since we were both kids, and I only recently connected with her as far back as COVID. But she called me up the other day and was asking, like, hey, does it get any easier, like, making friends in your 20s? I was like, oh boy, I'm not the person you should be talking to about this, because I am a hermit, very reclusive. So prepare for that topic. That's going to be the next one. But the story I was going to discuss with you guys, because I felt like it wouldn't have been appropriate for the Doom series. Some of you wanted to know about what happened before girl number one, the one I was with for a decade. There was a lady before her. The names of the individuals have been changed to protect your discretion is advised. We're going to call her M for the duration of the story. Watch me still slip up and then I'll have to like censor it or something. Here we go. This story might get a little crazy in terms of subject matter, so if you're that's your trigger warning. I already gave the viewer discretion. I wasn't kidding about that, but here it comes. Me and my dad moved like a lot when I was a kid. My dad was a single father for the entirety that I was being raised, aside from, say, from like 1 to 10. Because intermittently he would have like, these girls or whatever. But I had a stepmom from 6 to 10. This was after me and my sister had got estranged, and I would have a stepmom for like 4 or 5 years, I'd say. And after that ended, me and my dad would kind of just like move. Because, it's just kind of him. And we would end up moving to the north end of Las Vegas. He had gotten like a really good deal on a house. The guy that we were renting from was moving to Ohio. In Ohio, from Vegas, that's very far. They're not, they're not close at all. Our story takes place in this house, 2-story house. It was pretty nice. And my dad would help the guy we had bought the house from kind of move all of his stuff, because he kind of felt like he was obligated to, because we had gotten a pretty good deal on the house or whatever. During my dad's trip, which was like a 2-day ordeal, I stayed in Ohio for a little bit, drove all the way back in time for work, which is crazy. During this, it would have been summer break, so there was no school going on. And the area in which I lived, it was like a cul-de-sac. And there was a house to the right, and then a house to the right of that, and then adjacent to our homes, there were 3 houses on the other side. There was this girl, and like nobody believes me when I like share the story, because like one, just of like how entirely crazy it is. But there was this girl that lived to the right of me. We'll call her M. Now M, she was like doing like yard work. Like Las Vegas has like a really crazy like homeowners association, like that's attached to it. One of the reasons being that like everything that happens in Vegas, you kind of want to just keep to the Las Vegas Strip, because there's nothing interesting about the residential developments in town, or at least there shouldn't be. That's the idea. So you keep everything uniform, and you have to keep everything looking kind of nice. So when you look at neighborhoods in Vegas, most of them are going to look nice unless you're looking at like Old Town or parts of East Side Las Vegas that haven't changed since the 70s. Aside from that, most of the developments, especially the newer stuff, everything has to be uniform. You change your curtains. Ooh, they better be the same curtains as literally everybody else in the neighborhood. Otherwise, you're going to get fined. So she was doing yard work, and in the midst of doing this yard work, my dad was already out of town, and basically my dad was like cool with like whatever I did, but he was like, "Hey, don't stay up too late, or rather, don't stay out too late." He knew that I never really did anything too crazy anyway. Like back then, I would have just been playing like Call of Duty, and that would be that. So my dad goes to help the guy out and help him move all of his stuff. And he told me, "All right, I'll be back by the end of the week." And I noticed that there are people like outside, like they seem like people my age. So I wanted to introduce myself or whatever, because that's what people did back then. They'd go outside. I would introduce myself to M. I saw M and then her brother. And I would introduce myself like, "Oh, hey, what's up? I just moved." And she had introduced herself as M, like, "Hey, nice to meet you." My nickname growing up was AP, so she kind of just like caught on, like, "What's up, AP?" And we were really chill. Now the problem with them is that she made it disgustingly hard for me in my this would have been my 7th grade year in middle school, and that this was around 2010, so I would have been like 14. The only reason I know it was 2010 was because Halo Reach released that year, and I remember I finessed Halo Reach off of like one of my buddies in school. I'll get to that part in a second. But yeah, M made it like really difficult for me during that year. And here's the kicker, like we were not together like at all. Like she was not my girl at all. But we'll get to that. So me and her were like chilling like almost every day, and my dad would come back, on a Monday. It's like the start of the week, so this is his work week, and he's on call because he's a chauffeur, meaning he drives limos and stuff. I remember M would like knock on the door, and my dad hated like any girl that like I would ever introduce, like ever. And I didn't even get a chance to like introduce M. She was just kind of there. No, she would knock on the door, and my dad, like, I could only imagine he was already like staring daggers at M. It was like, "All right, who's this? Why? What are we doing?" And she had said something to the effect of like, "Hey, is AP home?" And my dad kind of just like, it's like sizing her up. And he had said something along the lines of like, "Yeah, I'll get him in a second." Like closes the door on her. And I remember I was playing something at the time on my Xbox. My dad comes up. It's like, "Hey, you want to tell me about the girl you got down there? What's going on with that?" And I'm 14, but at that age, even at that age, I was like super, super oblivious. Like I was super naive, super modest about things. Like I didn't understand what like he was even insinuating by that. Because back then, even when I was like alone, like I wasn't like too interested in like relationships at all at that age. So it was like always instilled in me, like, "Oh, don't worry about any of that until you're like 18. Like just don't even trip." My dad's asking me all these questions about M, and I'm just like, I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I didn't get where he was coming from. But I'm just telling him like, "Oh no, she's just my friend. She lives like literally right next door." And my dad almost died right there. So my dad, he's just like, "Hey, do me a favor." Like, he like leans in like really close to me, like, "Do me a favor." Like, yeah. "If I'm not home, she doesn't come over." I'm like, "All right." And if I'm home, keep the door open. Again, I had no idea what that meant, but I'm just like, "All right, okay, Dad." But I'm in an Italian household, so I would go, yeah, no worries, Padre. Yeah, I get you. I don't understand him at all. I don't get him. I don't get what he's saying. I'm like, okay, Padre, sure. It's like, all right. So he lets me go. Like, get ready. And that's basically every single day while I was living there. It was just like me and her were hanging out. The fact that we weren't dating was like, yeah, because if you lived in the neighborhood, you would understand. Like, no, they're definitely friends. Like that's what that is. But they hang out like a lot. Like they're literally belted to each other like every day. The fact that they're not dating is kind of strange. But if you were in the neighborhood, you understood. It was like we weren't really doing anything at all. It was like we'd either like hang out in front of my house or we'd hang out in front of her house, or we would go to her place for a bit and like chill and watch TV or whatever. And that was literally that. Now, school time would come around, and this is the part that gets even more shady, because if you didn't believe anything up to that point, you definitely didn't believe in this. Em went to high school. For my friends across the pond, like she's in a different like school system entirely. I'm still in middle school. She's 2 grade years ahead of me. Not only that, she was like 2-3 years older than I was, because her birthday was somewhere around October. So she was like 16 when I had met her, and then I turned 17. I was 14. I was 14 in September. I was 13 when she had met me. Now, here's where it gets like super like crazy. During that year of middle school for me, I was never like super like popular, especially when you like move, right? Like you don't really build relationships off of that. So like the people that I met were like very temporary, and that's why I could get away with like, you know, these stories, because it's like it's so unbelievable that it just has to be true. Em made it difficult during that school year because she was seen with me like everywhere, literally everywhere, in front of my house, in front of her house, at the store, at her brother's school, which he went to elementary school. There's 3 different school systems if you're keeping up. So like basically, if I was somewhere in public, she was with me. And again, at that age, I was super naive, like super oblivious, and I just didn't like I didn't understand, like she's my friend, and that's that. Now, again, I wasn't like super popular, but I was like cool with like literally everybody in that school year, like literally everybody. And in the Las Vegas school system, you have like so many different cliques. Like there's a lot of Filipino like students, and they have like their own little like clique because they speak Tagalog. And I was that cool with everybody that if I wanted to go sit with them, like I would just sit with like my Filipino friends. And they're all talking their language, and if they want to include me in the conversation, they would just go, "Oh, AP, we're talking about this, that, and the other." Like I was in there that good. People that were like really into sports, go sit with them. Like everybody was just like really cool to me because one, new guy, whatever. And as chill as I am now, I was kind of a goofball back then. It would take me getting into high school where I'd kind of just like chill. It's like I did so much cringe. Like there, you want to talk about weapons grade cringe? Like look at anything I did from 2012 when I started like my content creation to around 2016. Because around 2016, I would like be like, all right, let's ease up a little bit. I'd chill out a little bit more. But back then, it was just, I was still cool because like social media wasn't like too big on my radar back then or anything like that. I would just chill on Xbox, go outside. If I was outside, I was with this girl, so it's like, all right, he must be really chill. During the school year, everybody, like people, like cats I'd never talked to, like not once, would come up to me. It's like, yo, AP, who like knew me by nickname. It's like, yo, AP, who's that girl you're with? Like, what girl? And because of that alone, like people were like, yo, AP's like, did you see this dude? He's with this girl like every day. Every day. And again, I didn't get it. I didn't understand. It's like, why is everybody making my Padres making such a big deal about this? The people at school are making such a big deal. Like, I don't get it. I'll bring this up to Em and she's giggling at me like a maniac. There was this girl that was like kind of like the confirmed like cutie for, you know, that grade level or whatever. And don't get weird. But I remember I was like chilling at the library. It's like I needed books. And she would come up to me. It's like, AP, who's that girl you're with? She had asked me like a whole week, like, oh, what do you think of me? You know, it's middle school, it's whatever. It's like, yo, who's that girl? I'm like, what girl? I remember this chick had kicked me in the shin after I had said that. I had like this huge welt like on my shin like 2 weeks because she kicks me. That's crazy. That's crazy that you even get away with that back then. Like today, like be screaming bloody murder. Back then, it was like, all right, well, I don't know if I agree with that, but so that happened. And not only did that happen, that would happen 2 other times with 2 different girls. And I don't know what it is. Because back then, in my Doom video, I described myself as like a, it's, you know, it's joking. It is what it is. But I describe myself as a 5 unless I'm having a great morning, in which case I'm a 6. You know, I'm joking. It is what it is. But, like, I don't think I'm a looker now, but I definitely wasn't back then. Like I had like this like really short like hairstyle thing that I was doing. I was just like, every time I'd go get a haircut, at one point I just stopped getting my hair cut because I would just do it myself at that point. So I was practically bald. I cut my hair down to like a 1. And I don't know what it was about girls like at that time, maybe because like, you know, you're seeing with this girl or whatever. It's like, all right, well, I got to kind of see like what's going on there. That's what is this girl? What is this girl getting out of you? Which literally nothing. But it was the fact that she went to a different school, like literally the high school that's like next to the middle school. Like she like, and when people found that out, like they thought I was him. And so like I get invited to like a lot of stuff, right? Because it's like, oh, this dude must be like really cool. Like he must be really chill. I would turn down every single invite, like ever. And I think that's what like really started me being like as reclusive as I am now. Cause like I would turn down everything. Yo, AP, we're all gonna go hang out after school. Like you want to? No, I don't. Halo Reach was about to release, or it would have been released, and no, I'm gonna be playing Halo actually. I remember it's gearing up for the release, and we were all still like playing Halo 3. So it was like every day it was like we were playing Modern Warfare and then we were playing Halo 3, and Reach was like coming up. I remember there was one instance where I actually went to somebody's house because they had Halo Reach. It was like, yo, AP, you want to come over? Because I just got Halo Reach. You want to yeah. So I go over to his house and he was like, yeah, I'll let you borrow it. It's the foolish decision you've ever made in your life, son. Because I would keep that game for literally ever, and I did not mean to. We'll get to that in a moment. Going back to M, though. So, yeah, like I was just treated very differently because people just, you know, they assumed I was dating this girl that was in the high school next to us. And I was seeing every single day with her. And there were these two girls that they didn't see me as anything other than like, here's the dude or whatever. Like I was just kind of there, you know, the guy that they could talk to during that period of class. And I remember they were passing notes to me. It's like, yo, who's that girl? I'm just like, I don't get it. I literally don't understand. And that's literally like the thing that like really trips me up even to this day when I like reminisce about that. It's like I couldn't, like, who are you going to ask? You know what I mean? Like, I don't have the answers for this. Like, I don't understand what you guys are talking about. And like every single time it was like the same, answer out of me. Like, what girl? So people were like thinking I was like, really trying to be low key about it. Like, obviously me and this chick have like a relationship or whatever. And it's like, no, it wasn't like that at all. Talking about M in particular. So like every time we were hanging out, especially during the school year, it's like she was always talking about like relationship things or whatever. Like, I didn't understand nothing about any of that. It's like, no, she didn't see me as like a relationship partner, and then we'll get to that in a second. But she was always like dropping like these like truth bombs, like she was really dropping the lore on me. She was going, oh well, I'm by this, and I dated a girl for a bit, and I don't know, I didn't really like it or whatever. Like, I don't understand nothing about none of that. Girl, Halo Reach drops in 2 weeks. I don't know nothing about no. You're with a girl? Like, what do you want from me? You're in high school. Like, what like, no. I got this Halo Reach in a few weeks to worry about. I'm playing Halo 3 right now. I'm in that Forge grind. I'm making maps. Me and my boys are playing Rat Race. You know about that. That's where we get to the next chapter of this. Every day, M would try to like get inside my home. Like, she was always trying to find a way, like every day, to like find a reason to come over. And she was always dropping like subtle hints. Eventually she was just more open about it. Like, oh, I should come over. Like, oh, you never had me over. Like, oh, blah, 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 blah. She was always trying to find a way in. And I just keep thinking back to my dad, because my dad was like being really weird about it. And like, I don't want to explain like, oh, why is she even over? Like, even if it was just to like hang out. And I remember, like, I keep going back to like, oh, my dad doesn't want you over if, and I would never explain this to her, because it's like, I didn't even know, like, I wouldn't know how to bring that up. Because like her mom and her dad, like, they were really chill with me. Like, they were really cool. And this is the irony. Like, anytime we were hanging out and we were just like, in our neighborhood, I remember I'd visibly like see my dad like looking out of the window at us just to make sure that we're not like doing anything. And then M would call out like, oh, look, that's my mom right there. Like, looking at us. And she's like beckoning us to like come inside, because she had like made whatever. My dad, though, he's like staring daggers at us just to make sure we're not like up to anything. And this is how my dad was with like every girl like ever. But especially M, because it's like, this is your son, like in his teens. And it's like, here's this random girl, like what are they doing? And M would always try to like find a way inside, like somehow. And eventually she would get her wish, because my dad was not home one of these days. And here's the second trigger warning. But at the time, my dad would be on call. So like, he would just be expected to like get up, get in his suit, and he was off to work. I remember one of these days, like my old man like came into my room just to kind of like say like, oh, hey, I'm off, going to work. I'm like, all right, Dad, see you. I didn't think much of it that particular day, but M was like already ready to like hang out, because she had like noticed that my dad left, right? So then she's coming up, and she was already like ready to hang or whatever. She's like knocking on the door. Like, I answer it. I'm like, yo, what's up, Em? And she would not let me like go outside. She's like, no, let's hang out. I'm like, all right. It's like, cause I mean, like, what am I gonna do? And she was like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm playing Ghost Recon. And this is where she knew she had me. Because she would go, oh, I love Ghost Recon. This chick did not have no Xbox in her home. She didn't have one. I know this because I was in her home. She had a PlayStation. But it was like, that was like the communal PlayStation, you know what I mean? Like that, So then she's sitting there going, Oh, I love Ghost Recon. I was so good at it. Oh, let's go play it. Now, if you guys have an ounce of street smarts in you, you already know where this is going. But my room was on the second floor, right? So, you know, we're like walking up the steps or whatever. And I'm just thinking, oh, this is going to be really cool. Like I never played, or it's been a while rather since I played Ghost Recon with somebody on split screen. That's what was going on in my head. I'm pretty sure for him, she was on a mission. She was gonna see the mission through. So we get to my room, and for like a good like 20 minutes, like we're chilling, and you know, like yeah, it was cool. Like we were actually playing. She was all right. I remember I was in a voice call. So at the time, you could like go into like Xbox Live parties or whatever. So I was in this voice call. There was one person in the Hell Jumpers that would remember this exact day. I'm not gonna divulge who, but if you are in the Hell Jumpers Discord and you know the crew well enough, you will know exactly who it is. You are free to ask him about it. But there's that. He had said some like really like offhanded joke, and would like pipe up, and she would say in the back like, "Oh, I don't get it," and that would send this particular Hell Jumper to orbit. He was over there giggling, and I remember would like go to like turn the console off. I remember in my mind, it's like, "Oh, does she not like Ghost Recon?" So for M, she was like, "Oh, I have something else we should be doing." I was like, "Oh, what is that?" Again, you know, my naivety in full swing, in full effect. So if you can pick up what I'm putting down, all right, great. If you can't, keep that innocence shout. But I remember M was like she was trying to get at me, and she was like close to like getting to me, and then as soon as she was like gonna go in for it, we hear my dad like pulling up in the driveway, right? So she, so she's like clambering, like trying to get like whatever clothes that she had or whatever, because she already knew, like she knew, like she knew what the game was. At the time, my dad had like the move-in truck. We had already been at this place for like a good 3 months at this point, but my dad still had the moving truck because there was no shot he was going to like take it back and then be on call for work. And my dad's one of those people where it's like, if it's his weekend, it's his weekend. So he's like, all right, well, I got to take this back at some point, but when? He's like paying extra to like have this move-in truck. And, which I guess was lucky for M because it was like this giant yellow, like move-in truck or whatever. M's trying to like gather whatever clothes, and she like chucks like certain clothes like underneath my bed. And I remember exactly what would happen, like very vividly. So my dad pulls up, M's in like oh shit mode, and she's trying to get out, but she's like, oh, I can't go through the door right now. Like, no, that's a death sentence, especially with what she's got going on. And I look at her like she's opening my window. Like again, we're on the second story of my house, but she's opening my window, which didn't like have like any like covering on it. And she was able to like get on top of the move-in truck as my dad's like walking through the garage into the house. So he didn't hear any of that because like he got the garage door going and he's like trying to get in because he had forgot something, you know, coming to my room just to tell me that like, yeah, oh, I'd forgot whatever. All right, I'm heading out. Meanwhile, while that was going on, you could see like M like bolt off the truck to her house with what she's got on. And that was that. And she would attempt this. Which again, that's how naive I was. And I remember the first instance of this going down, I was like, that's not how you play Ghost Recon. Is what like it literally was going through my head at 14. Like, you don't need to do that for Ghost Recon. Like, no, that's not how you play it. I didn't understand it because like we weren't going out, and she like had said like, oh, I don't really see us like going out. Not as if I would like bring that up, because again, I didn't even understand like relationships back then, but like her being the way that she was, she would like constantly bring this stuff up. And if I feel like the more you bring it up, it's like obviously you feel a certain type of way about it. But it's like I just, she didn't see me as like the relationship type. And I'm telling you, at that point in my life, I was not. Not only that, she just made life kind of difficult because like I didn't understand like why people were so like against her. Like it was one thing from my dad, but then it was like, all right, here's these girls in my school that are like interested in me, but it's like, well, they can't be because this girl right here. And every time I was asked about her, I honestly didn't know. I was just like, no, I thought we were just friends. I thought we were just chilling. And for the most part, we were. But after I realized what she was after, I kind of stopped talking to her, and I would eventually move back to my old place where I would finish out the rest of my middle school year. So I didn't even finish out the year at that school, but we would move back because my dad was like, it's crazy, like staying up here, and then I work towards the strip, and we're like pretty far away from that. And I don't want to keep up. And plus this truck is stupid. This is literally what's going through my old man's head. Like, this truck is dumb. So then we would move back to where we were. And M like was still trying to like hang out with me like during like this moving process. And she like realized like I was kind of getting distant from her because it's like, I know what you're after. Right. So it's like, nah, just, I'm going to cut that off where it needs to be cut off. And it was kind of debilitating, I'd say, but also liberating at the same time, because it's like, you know your values. I'm sure some of you in the comments are going to go, AP, you are stupid for not letting that go down. And like I said, she tried this like multiple times. Like she like, yeah. But then after I was catching on, like something kind of just like awoken in me. Like, oh, she's trying to do that. Oh, well, that's not very good. Again, at that age, I was super modest, and I would remain super modest all the way into, say like when I was 18. I think my girl at the time that I was with for a whole decade would kind of like change that up in me after a while. It's like we were both like kind of like the modest type for the most part, until I would learn that we won't get into that. I'm not going to put her on blast like that. No, we're good. But if you get like the shy, quiet girl, have you ever dated one of those? Like you already know where this is going. Like she's got demons in other areas. Yeah, it was strange like hanging out with her during that process, because like she would always ask me like, oh, hey, what's wrong? Like, oh, AP, talk to me. Like, well, what did I do? Try to play it low key. Like, oh, nothing's wrong. Like, no, we're good. We're chilling. In the back of my mind, I'm going like I really shouldn't even be hanging out with you right now. Like at all. Especially after like what you're pulling, for one. And it's just like, yeah, some of you are going to sit there and go like, oh, that's not what I would have done. And it's like, you grow up in an Italian family, and it's like the values are like a lot different. So it's like, when it's your old man telling you like, oh, don't you do anything with any girl until you're at least like 18. It's like not even like a religion thing. It's just like, this is your old man like telling you. And, my grandmother's telling me like, no, you're going to get married before you do anything. You're going to marry yourself like a nice Italian girl, but you can't. That's what she used to try to like instill in me. But I remember I'd always like come back with like, no, that's not how that works. Like I can't. For those that have never seen me unless you go on my Instagram, or you come to the Twitch streams, or you come to the Discord, or you literally look at any of my other socials. You have not seen me yet. I'm mixed. So it's like, it's already kind of, it's hard enough like dating within like that range. There's not many like mixed Sicilians out there in my neck of the woods, at least. But yeah, she was always like, no, you're going to marry yourself like a nice Italian girl. And that's going to be that. I'm like, okay. All right. Yeah, so after that, like that kind of like broke me down a little bit after the move, because like I didn't understand like generally what could happen. And it was only after the fact that I'd catch on like, oh, like here's what can happen if you leave two people alone long enough. So it's like years and years of like my dad looking at a girl and going like, I already don't like her. Like I finally understood that like in that instant of like us moving. So that kind of like broke me down. And then like, I'd say like my first like true girlfriend in middle school, we would date throughout like the 8th grade year. She was like this cool like Spanish chick. And like that was like all that I had going with her, is that she was like this alt like Spanish girl, you know what I mean? Like take exactly what you think a goth middle schooler looks like and just make her Spanish. And then that is literally that. And I thought she was pretty cool, but it's like we literally didn't have anything in common. Like even in the taste of music, because I thought, okay, at least that's something that we both should like get gelled with. Even like the same bands. And we would date for a little bit, but then again, I was too modest, like too timid, too shy. So eventually she would cheat on me with a girl, no less. And like that really like broke me down. Like even after that, because like I went from this like high school chick like trying to get at me, but we weren't in a relationship, to like here I am now in a relationship. It's just that I was like way too timid. And so I was like, dude, I like, what do I, like, how do I fix that? Like, what do I do? It's like going to my old man didn't help. It's like, oh, that's literally him. It sounds like a rough situation to be in. That was literally my old man. But eventually I'd hit it off with this girl my freshman year of high school, and I'm going to save the rest of this for a future episode of some doom stuff. But I would hit it off with this girl, and like she like really matched my level of like timidness and like shyness. So it's like it was both of us kind of opening up to each other, and that kind of like set the stage for what would be a relationship for almost a decade. But that was the story of him. There's some stuff that I had to censor for the good of this, program, as well as just names of the innocent or lack thereof. But true story, and it's like I don't like talking about the story at all, just given like what it is. Like, it makes me feel gross. It's like when people are asking you about like, what's your relationships like? What was the first girl you ever been with? Just locker room stuff. It's like, oh man, I could say the story, but like nobody would believe me. Just based off of like literally everything. There were plans to discuss some Steam stuff, but I don't think I should. I think I should just, there's no way you can top all of that. Like, oh, wait a minute. What's the lore drop here? You got cheated on? I don't think I could top that with some Steam news. So we'll save that for next week. Once this, at the time of this recording, it should have been implemented. Or rather, sorry, at the time of this episode releasing, it should have been implemented. At the time of this recording, this is just talk. At the time of this episode releasing, it should be released, the feature set for Steam, and then we'll save it for next week. that's going to do it for me, everybody, this week. If you couldn't tell, I did not want to share that story on an episode of Doom, no matter how tired I might be. But I thought I could talk about it on Drop Pod because it's a podcast, share some stories. And, when I do these episodes solo, it gives me the opportunity to kind of just talk more about some life stuff that wouldn't normally come up with Austin as host, because we would literally just talk about games. If you guys have any similar experiences, I'd love to hear about it. In terms of weird relationship stories. So I find those kind of endearing because now you get it. Now you've been in the trenches, but probably not. I doubt it. There are plenty more stories that would top M. I'm pretty sure. It's just for me, it's that was such a crazy period in my life, especially as a teenager. But until then, thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.